Welcome, lovely one, to the Meant for More podcast. My name's Lisa Clifford, and I am building the world's most empowering Meant for More movement, leading millions of heart-led purpose seekers from feeling insignificant to invincible. So I truly hope you enjoy this next episode. And welcome, we have the most lovely lady coming up next, Joanna Gilbert. And I'd like to say I discovered Joanna. She was already discovered, but I discovered her on Facebook, just watching her with her headphones on and her enormous canvases and the flow in which she does her art is mesmerizing. And there's a reason why it's mesmerizing. Not only is it absolutely gorgeous, but Joanna does her art with an incredible intention that is right up our street. And her intention in her art is to help people reconnect with their authentic self. And her art is a combination of energies of self-worth, self-belief and mindset. And you can really feel it, which is why I was so drawn to having a conversation with Joanna, because I know that we'll all take some incredible gems from hearing her journey to doing art, because you've been a professional artist now for 10 years. So let's start, Joanna, by saying thank you so much for gifting us with your heart today. And can you share with us a moment, a time in your life where you felt you were meant for more? You know, that ache and that stirring that we have in our being, that we think, oh, I've got to listen to this. Do you have one of those to share with me?
Yeah, definitely. I've got a few of them. But I mean,
Great.
it's interesting to hear you talk about what you see the art meaning to you, because it's all kind of linked. When I was, in 2017, I decided to enroll to do an art degree, because I was always told that you can't ever make money being an artist by my wonderful family. And I was advised not to pursue anything creative. Kind of when we're at university age, should have put that on silent. At university, when we're
This
on
is real life stuff happening right now.
I enrolled to do a marketing degree because I liked marketing. It was a retail marketing degree, actually, because I like marketing and I like shopping. So I felt like that was a kind of nice blend of both. And I went and did marketing, and I went down a marketing route, and I worked for various advertising agencies. And then I ended up in an independent record label, because I write music as well. And then I got married and I did everything that I thought I should do. And I had two wonderful kids and we had a lovely home. But then I was just like, who the hell am I? Like, I felt like I was living a life for everyone else and I was doing everything that I should be doing. But the real me was nowhere to be found. And I'd even forgotten who I was. So it was when the children were about, I mean, they weren't babies, but they were kind of a little bit older. So in primary school, and I had a little bit more time when I dropped them off, and then I came back and I was doing all the errands and stuff. And I was just like, I just don't know, like, what gives me joy and what makes me happy. I feel like I'm kind of living a life for literally my kids, for my partner. He's now my ex, actually. He was always away Monday to Thursday, so I was on my own with the children. And it was tough. It was really hard. And I did this online YouTube thing on limiting beliefs. I don't know. I just thought I'd Google something. And this YouTube show or program or video rather that I listened to said, it encouraged me to ask the question, who would you be if you were the best version of yourself? So that one question was a defining moment where my life just opened up into a whole new possibility. So when I closed my eyes and put my hand on my heart, and I said the question, who would you really be if you were the best version of yourself? And I just sit and I listen. And then out of that, this hidden voice came up, and it was like, well, you'd be the artist that you always wanted to be.
Oh,
So I was like, wow. So then I enrolled in a couple of short courses at St. Martin's, which was like a really kind of like cutting edge university that I wanted to go to when I was 18, but I was told not to. And they had some short courses, and I hadn't picked up a paintbrush in, since I was doing A level actually. So, and by this time I was a mum, I was probably in my 30s. And I just got myself off to a short course in St. Martin's, and then that led on to another one and another one. And someone on that course said, have you thought about renting your work? Because there's companies, agents that take artists' work and they put them in offices. And I know that they're looking for new artists, so I enrolled in this. And they took me on as one of their agents, and I've been with them about 14 years now. And yeah, it's just kind of like been this constant upward spiral of kind of like learning and progressing and developing and just being brave and saying, well, if I don't, I won't know. Like, if I don't try, I won't know. And yeah, so it's just kind of like gone on and on and on. But even when I was still creating art, I still didn't really know what my art was about or who I was. So I kind of felt like a fraud
can I just ask,
because, yeah,
when you were creating the art, why? Because it's really clear now. It's really embodied
now,
to me. Yeah. What's the
yeah.
difference in how you're being now and how you were being then? What was your purpose behind doing the art then?
That was, do you know, Lisa, that's that you've hit it on the head. I didn't have a purpose. I was exploring, okay? And my inspiration came from architecture, from street art, from urban art. I saw the streets as kind of galleries and I was inspired by them. And I took a lot of photography and used that in my art. But if someone was to sit and say, Joe, what's your art about? I kind of felt like I was kidding myself because I didn't really paint from my heart. I was just painting, and then I kind of I found out that my husband had a massive load of debt, and I hit rock bottom because my whole world shifted. I was like, I didn't even know who I was married to anymore. And that was at the same time that I had enrolled to do a master's. So it's like everything just aligned. And at the moment when I was at my the most bottom of the bottom of the bottom that I could have ever been, like my whole life had just fallen apart. Everything I thought was true no longer made sense. And it was at that point where my art became my voice, and I empowered myself to paint from the heart, to paint energy, to paint movement. I saw life for what it was. I saw love for what it was. I saw kind of what we need as beings. And it just all kind of progressed from there, because when you do hit these lows, you've either got a choice to wallow in self-pity in victim mode and why me, or you do what I did after I did a bit of wallowing. I was just like, for God's sake, step up. Like, no one's going to save you, Joe. No one's coming with a golden spoon to just say, don't worry, here's everything you want in life. I've got 2 kids. I was a single mum. I stepped up, and I remember looking at myself in the eye in the bathroom, and I was crying as I was crying. And I said, no one's going to save me. And I just looked myself dead straight in the eye, and like my posture changed. And I was like, right, okay. And it was like this lioness just grew. And it was like, okay, you know what? The other side of fear is courage. Yeah. You just have to step over that fear. What's the worst that is going to happen? Like, you start kind of analyzing the risks, and it's like, well, I'm just going to bloody do it anyway. Let me just try. So this was where the purity of what I create now is so aligned with who I am in my core. Whereas before the masters and the rock bottom, the time when this massive paradigm shift, I was still like on kind of like tiptoeing to where I should be. I didn't have the courage. Whereas now I'm just like, right, let's do it. Let's try. Let's see.
It's like do or die, isn't it? When you're in that moment, you're looking in the mirror, that the illusion of your life had been completely unveiled, hadn't it? What your life or what you believe to be true about your life. And I guess when you're
Yeah.
in that moment, looking at yourself in the mirror, thinking, it's down to me as to
Yeah.
where I tread next, where I focus next, where I survive from next, and it is a do or die. And there's a something beautiful when you, as well as scary. Let's not be under any doubt that the step you took would have been incredibly scary because it's completely unknown and you need the success from it. But nonetheless, as you say, the other side of fear is courage. But there's something that happens inside us that is not present until we say it's down to me. And then there's
Yeah.
something that just shifts in us that isn't activated until that moment of it's down to me, and I'm going to have a really great go at seeing just what is possible.
100%. When you lose the fear of failure and you just kind of take that first step, and it's like you're kind of taking control of your life, like something's ignited inside. And for the very first time, I felt like I'm making decisions for my own. I'm not relying on anyone else. It's all like it, and it's pressure, but it's like, okay, it's empowering. And it's scary, and it is a survival thing. If you don't step up, what's going to happen to everything? Like, that's not me. That wasn't even on the cards. Okay, I sat in it for a few weeks, and I probably lost 20 kilos. And everyone was incredibly worried with just how I was even able to kind of function. And also, it was the time of my masters. I had a lot of pressure to do well, at the doing in the degree that I chose to do, and it was a year degree, so it was very intense. But it couldn't have happened at a better time. I remember when I first started painting this style, because I write a lot of poetry. I write poetry and I write music as well. What I did was I used to journal a lot of things, and they were angry. It was like I was really letting out stuff. And I remember that I got a bed sheet, like an actual bed sheet, and I staple gunned it to the wall in the studio at uni. And I collaborated with another friend of mine who I'd made on the course, and we were both like writing words on this bed sheet, and I was writing parts of my journal and she was writing parts of her thinking, and we were just kind of and we time lapsed it on a video, and it was so cathartic just to kind of like get stuff out and then paint over it. So you can write the words out and then you can paint on top of it. And there was a process that I really enjoyed doing that. I don't write anything on under my canvases now because feel like I'm on the other side of the struggle. Now I'm in the flow. Now I'm in the flow 100%. There doesn't seem to be a struggle with what I do now because it feels pure and authentic and real. And this is why I'm so passionate about what I do, because so many other women, mums, they're not remembering who they are because we put ourselves aside to be a mum, right? And that's okay. But we can't ever forget who we are. And I don't think I'm just speaking for myself. I think it's a very relatable thing. And when the children get to a certain age, it's not uncommon for mums to be like, well, who am I? Where have
Yes.
I gone? Like, what do I even like? What do I enjoy doing? And it feels like we're selfish if we choose to do stuff for us. But I want to break that down, because you're going to be a better mum if you are filling your own cup first. And then when your cup's full, it'll overflow, rather than doing it the other way and just kind of fill everyone else's cup. So you've got like a tiny little drop, you're going to burn out and it's just going to be horrendous. So this is a big part of the message that I like to share as well.
It's there's so many things I just want to, I guess, reflect back because this is, and your expression of it, I feel like you live everything in every fiber, every cell of your being, which goes back to your authentic message. But the little thing that you remind me of is Brené Brown when she talks about
Yeah.
vulnerability, and great art can only be created when you're in that real vulnerability. Have you heard her with that message of the art is crafted from that rock bottom vulnerability?
Yeah,
I wonder why that
yeah.
is. Why do you think that is? From your
Vulnerable.
your lived experience.
You cannot be an artist and not be vulnerable. We are totally exposing ourselves to the judgment of anyone and anything who even sets eyes on your work. So you are vulnerable on the outset. So if you only think that you're a good artist based on sales, or if you start to attach, well, what does a good artist mean to me? Is it sales? Is it Facebook likes? Is it, Instagram followers? Is it galleries? Like all of this, it's like it's an illusion, because that is an unhealthy attachment. If I sat there and my parents, bless them, they mean well. I hope they don't listen to this. They mean well, but if I have an exhibition, they will innocently say, well, I hope you sell,
Yeah.
right? And it's an innocent comment.
Yes.
But I know that what that means is, if I don't sell, does that mean I failed? It's like this hidden thing. So then you start to put these kind of attachments on things. Whereas I'm like, even if I don't sell, it doesn't matter, because I don't know how the world or the universe is working. All I know is that I was meant to do this exhibition right here, right now, with no perceived, attached, expected outcome. Whatever will be, right? Because we don't know how the universe works underneath what we can see. So if you walk around with this eye for opportunity, but not for success by how success is determined, i.e., like traditionally in society, by kind of income and sales and number of followers and all of these statistics. If you can just push all of that aside and just stay true to what you are as an artist, then that's vulnerability in its purest form, because you don't care what anyone else really thinks. It's about you just sharing a message and knowing that it's going to land where it needs to land. And that's my job done. If I can bring one person joy through them looking at my art, then I've succeeded in what I wanted to do. And that's not a metric that you can measure in terms of profit, loss, branding, marketing,
We may ever find out about. And you didn't
Yeah,
know.
you may not.
You didn't know how much I loved your videos. You putting your headphones on and just
Yeah.
that movement in it, and me sitting and looking in wonder, thinking, I want to watch a longer video of this. You didn't know that. You didn't know that it then inspired me to get a canvas out, and I cannot paint.
Oh, well
And
done.
have a go at troweling some stuff on. You had no idea of the success that you achieved in my appreciation for you, how you do what you do, and what the outcome turns out to be. And there'll be
Wow, no,
thousands,
that
if
means the
not
world to
millions.
me.
Yeah, yeah, and so I felt like I knew you when I reached out to you, because I didn't know you, but I knew there was more to you than one might see of an artist. And there's probably more to many artists than we see of them. But there
Yeah.
was something that I related to about you, and I knew nothing about you. But I trusted when I reached out and left you a voice note. I thought, Joanna will have a flipping Scooby clue who I am. But I feel I relate to her on some level. And that is this embodied way that you are representing yourself, you are showing up, and it's exactly as you've said. I'm just going to go with the flow, put it out there, and it will land where it lands. It's out of my hands. If I'm in my flow, it's out of my hands, and I just have to trust. And I can say, I feel that I can feel, I can connect with that.
But imagine this, Lisa. Imagine if we all lived a life where that's what we did.
Yeah.
Okay. What a more beautiful world would it be? Okay. When we're all just waking up every day, being the best versions of ourselves, not hoping for an outcome of A, B, C, or D, but just knowing that we're doing our best and the outcome doesn't matter, because we have trust that
Yes.
whatever we're doing is going to land wherever it's going to land. Like, that's a world full of unconditional love, which is the root of what I think is actually the root of what we all need, of what my art's about. You know, unconditional love is just like this embodiment of feeling like you're secure in who you are, no matter what.
And I think
So it's just
self-awareness,
interesting. Yeah.
I think self-awareness is, and self-knowledge and knowing yourself and understanding yourself has to be the foundation of trusting yourself, doesn't it, to some extent? Because I think I see a lot of people that are out of alignment with self-trust because they don't see themselves as they are. They don't
Yeah.
know themselves deeply, which is where my work comes in helping them see themselves as they are, not worse, not better, but just as they are, and trusting themselves. Because when we're out of alignment in what we see and who we are, then there's a lack of self-trust that then really blocks our flow. And have you got any examples of that when you've been doing your work where something's been out of alignment and it's just been reflected on the canvas?
One of the first questions I think you asked, and going back to that moment in the mirror, that was when I first started trusting myself. Before I did the masters, and I said I felt like a bit of an artist who was a fraud because I couldn't speak to you what my art was about, not from the heart. So this moment when you start to trust yourself and believe in yourself and just think, you know what, I can do this. The moment when I stopped asking my parents what they think of my art, because quite honestly, they don't buy it. They're not my buyers. You know, and I can love the fact that they've got an opinion on something, but that opinion doesn't make me think I am better or worse than who I am as an artist. Because when you're sure of who you are and when you are being vulnerable and when you kind of don't almost care what that attachment outcome is, it just doesn't matter. You're
Mm.
just alive, you've got belief, you've got trust. Yeah, so when you have this moment of trust and belief in yourself, then I just think that is really where the magic happens. And it's like we're light workers, we're all sharing our own power, our own light. And the world needs more light.
Doesn't it?
Yeah, the world needs more light. And the more that we can do to share the light in the world and raise everyone's joy, then this is our work done. I mean, you're doing the same thing with what you're doing, you know?
Absolutely. And it was a similar situation that got me onto my path. Yours was the question of who would I be if I was my best version of
Yeah.
myself? Is that right? And mine was, what would you do if you knew you couldn't fail? And what I do
Ah,
now was nothing like what I was doing when I answered that question.
yeah.
And a whole load of retraining, but I feel like I am being completely myself
Mm,
all of the time. And when
mm,
I was working for hotel groups and I was in the sales team, and I felt completely manufactured because I didn't believe in myself. I felt like I faked it every day and got away with it. And that's not me being hard on myself. That's actually true that I would think going into a sales meeting, I'd be so nervous, or into meeting a client, I'd be so nervous, I'd be so prepared, and I'd be a version of myself. And people can't consistently be who they're not.
yeah,
And
exactly.
part of what you say is your art is a message of mental wellness.
Yeah,
And there's so much needed around mental wellness. And I think it comes, I'm not saying this is all of the answer, but with self acceptance.
yeah,
Acceptance of ourselves. Once we know who we are, and then there isn't the mental battle going on. And I know that some mental unwellness can also be chemically, um, due to our wiring.
yeah.
But how do you encourage mental wellness through your art? How does that come to light? I mean, I can see it, but how would you describe it to somebody who is listening? And those that are able to watch through YouTube, there's your art beautifully positioned right behind you, that gives you a flavour of what you create. Yeah. So how would you say that you're able to encourage mental wellness through your art?
I think it's about the titles that I create, the posts that I make. It's not a painting. Obviously, obviously it is a painting, but it's not, because it's abstract, you'll see what you want to see. And that's going to be totally different to what I see, because we all live in a world of separate realities. Yeah. The only world we live in, the only world we actually live in, is the one in our mind. That's our only world. Everything outside of our mind, we're kind of interpreting what we're seeing, right? So this is why you can have the same painting and you can have 10 people in a different room, in the same room, looking at the same painting, but everyone's got a different perspective of that painting. So because of the like self-development and learning and understanding that I've got of kind of how the mind works and how we fit into this world that's got a bigger intelligence than who we are, and how we're a part of something just way bigger, there's just understanding of sharing a message and knowing that it's just going to reach and connect and resonate with the right people. And also, I'm not scared to share my story, because people can relate to it. And if people hear a bit about something and they can see that someone's actually openly talking about some stuff that's quite hard to talk about. We're quite private in general, you know, as British people. So, you know, when you've got someone who's a single mum, who's an artist, who's earning a living off something in the creative world, who's had an ex that basically threw her under the you know what with a whole load of debt, the whole world fell apart. But I'm raising my kids. I've just launched a print website. I work so long. I'm like always working. I'm doing the marketing. I'm doing my accounts. It's not just painting pictures. I'm doing promotion. I'm battling with about 5 different five social media accounts. So you've got all of this like business entrepreneurship that you're doing. And if I can talk about any of that, and if it can land with someone and just encourage someone to just think, maybe I could do that too. Or like, oh, I wonder who I'd be if I did that, or if I tried this, or, you know, this is how I think that I can share. Because the paintings that I create, they're full of energy and movement. And I loved what you said in the beginning. I don't think about anything that I'm painting. And you've probably seen I kind of meditate on the canvas before I even pick up a paintbrush. So at that point, I've got my headphones on and I'm always listening to the same song, and I'm more than happy to share my playlist with your listeners if you want. But I always start with the same song, and it's called Breathe. And I say a prayer. I don't know necessarily if it's to God or whoever. I don't even know who this bigger being is, but I do believe that there is something bigger. And I say a prayer, and that prayer is like, give me the power and give me the strength to create something beautiful for whoever's going to have this in their home, and allow them to please just see the beauty in something that I create. And then that's it. I just turn around, pick up a paintbrush, pick up the colours, and then I'm off. And no one can talk to me until I finished. And then I feel exhausted,
And how
by the
long was
way.
that? So you say that again?
I feel exhausted after I paint because it's very
Because you've
intense.
given everything. Yeah, because you've given everything for something you can't yet see, and you're creating something you don't know what you're creating. You're trusting when you're done, you're done. You step back and
Yeah.
you go. I mean, what happens in that process? I mean, I've just said it very analytically there, or analog. Or,
And yeah. Well, the
so you,
process, do you mean in terms of how I create a painting, or when I know when to stop?
Well, it's that because when you're adding to a painting, you're quite close up, aren't you? Until you step back, and it's that flow of your energy, your intention that you creating for someone that either you've been commissioned by, or you're going to just create it and see who wants it, or where it goes, or where it goes to live.
Yeah.
And so, and sometimes people make a painting because they know exactly what they're recreating, whereas I'm guessing you don't know what you are creating until the energy is finished with you.
I don't have a clue what colours I'm going to use, what the end result's going to look like, unless it is a commission, in which case they might say, oh, we really like the colours on this one. Can you create something similar but a different size? Which is, I've got an idea. And I always say to them, I'm not a computer. It will be part of the same family, but it's not going to be the same because I can't, when you tap into this flow state, you can't get back into it again, certainly the next day. So I have to paint everything in one sitting.
Right.
So it'll happen within a few hours. It'll happen within a few hours, and I've just got my playlist on, and I have to work quite quickly because the way that I paint, the colors blend on top of each other, right? So I'll start by putting the dark colors down, and there's a lot of movement. So because if I take too long, I'm analyzing what I'm doing. So because I like to work quickly, and people always say, oh, they don't know how I do what I do with the wrists, but it's a case of kind of like moving, then you get those sweeping marks. And then if I add the lighter color, it'll lift up the color underneath. And then that's how I get this movement. And I love the idea of kind of creating this three-dimensional form on a flat painting. Because you've captured a moment in time, right? You've made something four-dimensional out of something that's flat. So it's has to happen in the moment. I'll know when it's done because I start messing around with a smaller brush and like adding a little bit of color here and a little bit of color there. And it just feels like if it gets to the point where I'm fiddling, we're at a high risk point, because at that point it can go down. It
Yeah.
doesn't happen very often, but it can. And then of course it's done. So knowing when to stop, or the 20 minutes of a painting, are the most high risk. And it's the only time when I think about anything, really, if I'm being honest. It's the only time when I think about anything, because I know that I've got everything that I've created to lose. And it's unhealthy because I then become attached to what I've created. Because
And
when what
getting
you've
it right or
created,
wrong.
because if I get it wrong, then it's done, and it's an unhealthy attachment. So I know that I'm not being true to myself, because really I should just trust that whatever I do, it was meant to be, and if it turns out that that painting failed for any reason, then I know that I would have learned something from it. So it's just about kind of just not caring if it's a right mark or a wrong mark.
Because I guess in a moment you're in a very small context, whereas when you step back, there's a much bigger context that it belongs within. Is that right?
What do you mean? When I'm
So,
actually
right
painting?
or wrong mark? Yes, if you say, letting go of whether it's a right or wrong mark, I mean, a
Yes.
mark can be in a very small region, can't it, compared to the whole?
Yeah, definitely. And there's marks that I've just got so angry with, and like you might have seen videos of me, and I'm like, I really get angry, and sometimes I kind of throw things because it's just not going how I want it to go. But then I'll just pick up another brush, and something beautiful comes out of it. Or I'll just turn the brush on the other end and like scratch it, not with the brush end, with the handle end, and just scratch it. And I'm like, oh, I quite like that. And then that leads on
Yeah.
to something new. So these kind of the frustration is part of it. In fact, you cannot be an artist and not get frustrated. I'll be honest with you, because it's a very frustrating creative role. Not always, but when I get, I'm going to tell you something funny. There are times, generally, I know this is going to sound really like, what the hell is she talking about? Generally, I don't really create a bad painting. Sorry, I've got to just own that. So there's times when I do create a bad painting, yeah, and I'm really angry. And then I'm like, all right, but you know what? It's actually good, because I don't want to get complacent with only creating really good art. Like, it's good for me to create a rubbish painting. It just brings me back to kind of like reality. It's like, all right, well, I'm not superhuman, like, so it wasn't working, but it's encouraging. So the failure or the creation of something bad is actually something good. Very difficult to paint when you're not in the right flow. You can't force it.
And what Yes, I was going to ask, what do you do when that flow state isn't there? Do you think it's just not accessible today?
Yeah,
I'm
yeah.
coming
Do
back
do my
tomorrow.
counts. Yeah, do my counts. Do my
Do
marketing.
yeah,
Yeah. No, I do.
yeah.
The different times of the month, I'm noticing more and more that there's creative times and there's logic
Hmm.
times.
Hmm.
And I'm noticing more and more that if I'm just not in the creative zone, I'm not going to cut myself up or beat myself up and just think, oh, I really need to paint. I'll be like, well, let me focus on marketing, let me focus on admin, let me write my Christmas cards, whatever it is, and then just go with the flow on that, because we can't, I think also when we're a bit older, we know our bodies a bit more. And there's definitely something with the moon cycle that I'm kind of,
Absolutely.
isn't there, right? So you kind of know what your body is telling you. If you listen, or you, like you were saying before, if you trust yourself with this self-trust, it's okay, isn't it? It's okay if I don't do what I planned to do today because I didn't feel like it. It's okay. Like
Because
what?
the beauty of your work is that it's flows through you
Yes.
as like a vessel. And so with that comes the humanness as well. And with that comes the
Yeah.
days when we are jarring with the flow. And there's the days when we are just empty and the flow goes through us.
Yeah.
And I think it's so important that we don't have these belief systems of started so I'll finish, or I'm not a quitter so therefore, and then we create this, we can accidentally, for all the right reasons sometimes, create this force where we're actually coming up against our own internal resistance because
Yeah.
energetically we're in a different alignment. And
Yeah.
so for example, yesterday I had 2 podcasts booked for the afternoon, and a migraine began at
Oh,
11:30. And I thought I could push through, and I thought, but what version of me is somebody having? Because if I'm pushing through something, I'm irritable, I haven't got the capacity to say what I want to say once, never mind twice, I'll be understood. I
yeah.
can be frustrated. So I had to just cancel, but it feels flaky, doesn't it? We're in a world where we kind of think that we've got to, soldier on. Interestingly, the
No,
word soldier. And actually, no, we don't. We don't
no,
have
we
to do any
don't.
of that.
And
And
telling
that's the
that, even
permission I
telling
think
that
you
is
give
going to
people.
inspire others. Sorry, go on.
Yeah. Well, I was just going to say, I think that's the permission you give people with this
Yes.
authentic, inviting people to be authentic. What is in that authenticity? Is it vulnerability, rawness, great flow, or is there some resistance? And what if you were being authentic to the resistance, how would you be being right now? And what situation would you take yourself out of? What situation would you put yourself into? And so you must, as an artist, and the way that you connect with yourself and the universe, be super tuned in to what flow you're in.
Mm,
And how do you, when you know you're not in the flow,
mm.
and you've got a deadline on something, somebody's commissioned you, how do you manage your expectation on yourself when you're in that kind of almost commercial and artist state?
It's so I had a commission, I can't name drop. I had a commission for Harrods. They commissioned me to do 6 paintings for their VIP level, where people like us probably wouldn't go and shop, but the private shoppers go upstairs and they have this floor that's got kind of a bar and all sorts of things. So I did 6 paintings for them. Now I knew that I had 6 weeks to do it. So the first kind of few weeks, I was like, oh yeah, it's ages away. And then we got to the last few weeks, and I'm like, oh, okay. Now I really need to start thinking about it. But it was difficult because I wasn't in the zone. I wasn't in the zone. So I'm like, yeah, just knowing that I'm still not in the zone and it's still okay. And then I started thinking quite practically, thinking, well, look, 6 paintings, this is how long it's going to take me to do each one. This is how many I think I can do in a week, these kind of things. And then I started kind of calculating a little bit, and I was like, right, I'm going to start. And then it was like a Friday, and I'm thinking, no, it doesn't make sense to do it on a Friday, because then I'll want to continue and I'll break the flow. So it felt like I was leaving it last minute, but actually what I was doing was just listening, because I want to create the best work that I can create for them. I can't force it. Like, you couldn't do the interview if you had a migraine. Of course you can't. So yeah, trusting yourself and listening to yourself and being in tune, 100%. That's what we all need to do. Forget what
Mm.
society tells us to do.
Yeah, and I think what would your message be then to people who might be thinking, well, it's all right for you, Joanna, and they've got this, they're answering this question, who would I be if I was the best version of myself? What would I be doing? and they've got their answer, but they have some doubt about whether now is the right time, whether some belief systems, that we inherit from our parents. Make money out of this, it's very difficult, you'll be struggling, you need to get another job. All those kind of risk commentary that
Yeah.
goes on in their mind. What would your response be to that?
Yeah. Look,
That you must have heard yourself.
it's overwhelming. It's overwhelming. I had 3 jobs. I was like moonlighting with my art business. I had a part-time job. I had started a kind of a side hustle, which didn't go very well. I was working literally 16, 18 hours a day between all the different jobs. This isn't an overnight thing. Okay.
Yeah.
I'm passionate about what I do. I don't mind working till 11 o'clock at night. I don't. Like, if you tap into something that you want to do, you're not working. You're just on a mission. You're at service. I'm at service, yeah, to the bigger community to create something. So if I feel inspired and empowered and motivated, then it's not work. But to get to this point was a lot of work and a lot of tears.
Yeah.
and a lot of struggle. And my sister-in-law is just she's written a children's book, and she's got a day job, and I was kind of saying to her, you need to work at night as well. She's like, yeah, I've got the kids and this and that, and I'm like, yeah, you still need to put the work in at night after the kids gone to bed. You've got to do it. Either you've got it in you or you don't, right? So you need to choose which person of yourself do you want to be.
Yeah, and what would your future self thank you for? Because nothing is going to, of great value, liberation, purpose is going to happen accidentally and without being really disciplined with what we need to sacrifice in order to create the space to bring this amazing idea to life. It's like you say, it's, a great athlete will train and train and train and train, and when they're not training, they're visualizing. They're sharpening their mind and their body at the same time, and then there are things that they abstain from in order to be at their best that they can be, but expecting it to happen without creating space or having some sacrifices that ultimately the benefit far outweighs the sacrifice eventually. But I guess it's that you can expect flow, but don't expect it to be easy. An expectation of it being easy is almost setting ourselves up for failure in some way. Or do you have what's your view on that
I think
statement
in
itself?
terms of nothing. Having an expectation of flow being easy in a business sense, creating a business, or like choosing to kind of branch out into something that feels like it's more aligned with who you are, I can tell you 100% now, it's not going to be easy. It's just not going to be easy, right? When you're in the flow, like you're going to kind of like, your business is going to go through different stages and cycles, and there's going to get a little hill where it's not going to be easy again because you're going to grow again. So when I launched my print shop, that then meant massive learning for me. Shopify, e-commerce, Facebook advertising, all of these things, massive learning, not easy again, working till 11 o'clock at night. Yeah, but then it'll even out, and then I'll be okay on a kind of like a nice little upward incline, and then I'm going to figure out something else, like maybe I want to do something, whatever it may be, but then there's going to be more learning again. So you're always kind of going to have these moments where you are in flow and it's going well, and then you want to revolve more. So that's business, and I would just say do it.
And just do it. And the
Just do it.
unpredictability of growth. Growth can be unpredictable, and so I think so often we are in search of certainty, and I think the way that we're ever going to have certainty is to keep repeating the same thing that we've been doing for however long. Then we're going to have certainty. But if we want to have something that's amazing, or something that really connects with our heart, or a goal or a dream, it doesn't come with certainty. Forecasting comes with certainty to some degree, but we'll only be forecasting who we are now. We can't forecast who we're going to be because that's yet to be tested and measured. And so I think letting go of certainty and embracing unfamiliarity
Mm.
is can be our friend.
Nothing's going to change unless you change. Nothing's going to change. Nothing's going to change. You're going to wake up in the same person unless you change. And the only place you can change from is your mindset. Yeah. So
Yes.
really, it's all down to us. I think the post I did yesterday was like, it's me versus me. Like, I don't have any rivals. I don't have any enemies. It's me versus me. Like, I'm the one that is always needing to improve, always needing to learn, always needing to grow. I don't care about competition or rivalry. It doesn't interest me. Like, just it's me versus me the whole time. Like, just carry on.
And just, I love this conversation. It's been full of fire and
Yeah, I've loved
energy
it.
and
Yeah.
fire in a really great way of enthusiasm and encouragement for people. So in closing, what bit of wisdom or top tip or wee story would you say to support somebody who's got that stirring of, I think I'm meant for more, but I don't know what it is? What, and I'm putting you on the spot, you've not been asked to rehearse this or come up with it in advance. So what springs to mind as a gift?
I think I know straight away as soon as you ask this question what I would say. And it's a kind of a mantra that I've said to myself for a number of years now. And it's like, the only limits we have are the ones we put on ourselves. Like,
That was my post today.
was it?
That was my post on LinkedIn and Facebook today. Was the only limit we have is the one that we have in our mind.
Yeah.
You see,
Yeah. That's
this
it.
is a
That's
prime
it.
example of when you're in flow, like attracts like. So just say it again for clarity for everybody, because I was too aghast.
The only
Your
limits we
mantra.
have are the ones we put on ourselves. Like, we are limitless beings. So the only limits we have are the ones we put on ourselves. And I had a show that was called Limitless. I mean, it was around COVID time, if we even remember those days now. And yeah, it was about kind of like, what if the sky isn't the limit? What if we can go even higher? You know, I hate that saying the sky's the limit. Well, what if it's not?
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah. Who
like, it's
said?
not.
Yeah.
Yeah. So like, even think even higher. So I think it's just a case of, yeah, be limitless, be free, and believe in who you are, and just try. Like, nothing's really going to go wrong if you fail. It's learning. It's not even failure. It's learning, you know?
And it's also, who says that somebody's just created is failure?
Yeah.
You know, I'm imagining some of your art that you might have thought when you said that tiny occasion, there's a piece
Yeah,
that you
the odd
think
one.
isn't quite right. And I reckon the rest of us were like, no, I'll have it. It's gorgeous. But it's I guess, yeah, what is failure? It's just,
Yeah. It's
Joanna, we're
funny, and
going to
I
have to
don't know what, yeah, I would just say this. I don't know what anyone likes or doesn't like. Like, it's crazy. Like, some things that I really don't like, they end up selling, and I'm like, okay, it just goes to show, you know. So we don't know. We're all our own beings in our own world with our own perceptions and our own lens.
Yeah, and I love the part where you said earlier about 10 people can look at the same painting and see different things. And I think also the same person can look at the same painting 10 times and see different things,
Yes.
can't they?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
and when you were saying, I feel like I've reopened the conversation back up, but I can't help it. I tend to always do this. But when you were saying about mental wellness as well, I think using art for people to be able to describe what they're feeling. So
Mm.
I have a thing where I'm doing a fire walk, and we spend a lot of time around the fire as it's burning down with our intentions in and our hopes and our dreams in and the things we want to let go of. But I get people to look at the fire and say, what reflection of yourself do you see in the fire?
Wow.
And then there are so many different things that people see. Like, somebody
Wow.
might say, I see vulnerability, and somebody else might say, I see ferocious tenacity.
Yeah.
And they're looking at the same fire, but from a different perspective, with a different feeling. And I'm guessing that when people look at your art, because it feels so alive, that
Yeah.
they would be able to use it as a bit of therapy by saying, well, when I look at it, I can see somebody hiding in the shadows, and I feel like that's a reflection of me, or I can see somebody who's boldly going out there, tits and
Yeah.
teeth. I think that art can be used as for that aspect for mental
Yeah.
wellness as well. And I don't know whether you get people that use your art in that way.
It can be used in many, many ways. I'm actually doing a body painting, I think, in the new year because this lady wants to celebrate being 40 and she feels like she hasn't loved her body in a long time. So she wants me to help make her beautiful. So, I think art and colour and expression, it all blends into this whole feeling of mental wellness. So, but we should do a collab with the fire thing,
Yes,
a
I'd
joint
love to see.
event. Yeah.
I would love to see what that would look like and feel what that
Yeah,
would
we
look like.
can.
Let's talk about it. Where can people find your prints, your art, if they're thinking about getting somebody that really special Christmas present?
Yes, well, my website is prints.joannagilbert.com and my Instagram is Joanna_Gilbert_art. But I'm sure you'll put all the notes in. And at the moment, my prints have 30% off, kind of Black Friday, Christmas type special. So they're really, really
Okay.
reasonable. So get them in quickly before Christmas delivery stops.
Thank you so much, Joanna. You have been completely inspiring. And
No, thank
let's
you.
bring the fire and art together in the future.
Yes,
Lots of
yes, that's a name for a painting. Thank you, Lisa.
Thank you so much for listening to this episode. If you would like to be involved in the Meant for More movement, then please drop me a line at lisa@lisaclifford.co.uk. Whether that's you're interested in being on the podcast, taking part in any of the trainings, or would just love to know how you can help empower others, then let's have a conversation. Thank you for listening, and we'll connect again very soon.